Hey guys, welcome back to the SLOP Podcast, an interview series that fills your ears with wild discussions, fascinating insights, and unique stories from Australia's most promising and established creators. A bit of a different episode this month. Last week we released the first episode of our new investigative series, SLEUTH, which covered the use of time-shifted characters, aka the casting of younger and older versions of a character in film and TV. Since we were also making a short film that featured such a thing, we went looking to find a set of rules or guidelines to help us cast 3 people to play one person at different ages. So, we ended up interviewing Tom McSWEENEY, a brilliant Hollywood casting director and an invaluable source of information. We featured some of it in the episode, but thought you guys would enjoy the entire interview, as Tom takes us through not just casting younger and older versions, but his career, casting tips, and some fascinating anecdotes about mermaids. We hope you enjoy. Okay, so the first thing we just wanted to go through is just a bit of explanation of who you are, positions. Obviously, it doesn't have to be super long, but you can give us as much info as we need.
I'm Tom McSWEENEY. I'm a 32-year veteran of the casting profession. Started my career in Hollywood in 1994, I think. Yeah. Thus far, I've done 700 hours of television, 9 television series, hundreds of films. There's a few I'm proud of. I've done a few theater things, but primarily film and television is my bag. Started as a kid actor, acted till I was 22, got my degree, like all good people, we got my Bachelor of Arts degree. That's useless, but I finished college, moved to Hollywood, thinking I was going to be an actor, and realized really early on it wasn't what I wanted to do. And it took a good year or two to get within the industry. It's getting that first job is always the hard one. Yeah. And I'm the kind of guy who kind of stays, rather than going from job to job to job, I kind of stayed maybe too long, but I worked with one person for 7 years, then opened my own company, stayed another 4, and then decided my wife wanted to come back home to Australia, and moved here 20 years ago. Wow. And have been on the Gold Coast 20 years. This is where Hollywood works, so this is where I was placed, and for 10 and a half years I worked for an Australian company. And then after that, I opened my own again, and have been doing that nonstop. I was nominated for an Emmy in 2007, which we joked that in my obituary it will say Emmy Nominated. I was unsuccessful in attaining the trophy, but I was recognized by my peers. Really proud of that. And the last 2 years, my partner Dave Newman and I, our company was recognized for a series that we did here called The Family Law, which was an extremely beautiful piece of television. One of the harder casting jobs we ever had. And we've won twice for Outstanding Comedy Series. So awesome. That's me.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Sort of building off of that and then moving into the topic at hand. I was just wondering how many times, at least that you can recall, you've had to face the situation where you've had to cast a younger or older person of a character.
Many.
Maybe you couldn't put a number to it?
20, maybe?
Nice.
Yeah, possibly more.
Is it always difficult? Or is it something you enjoy doing, or is it something you'd rather avoid?
It's fun in a way. Sometimes you have the child, and because it also goes to parents. It's families, it's siblings. It's not just when you got a character that has to age. When you're putting a family together, you have to find or try to find faces that you believe would be a family unit. I'd say for finding a character young and old, 20, 25 times. It can be challenging. Sometimes you can find the perfect look, but they don't have the skill base.
Yeah.
Sometimes you find the skill base and the look isn't perfect. and you see if makeup and hair can help. Sometimes they aren't fussed on how closely they look, because they're going to be flashback scenes, and if the audience is that focused on, oh, they don't look right, then there's a problem in the foreground. But every time it's a challenge, and you start by, one of the ways you would do it is you have your lead actor, and you say, "Could you have any photographs of you as a child?" That's the smartest way to try to start. If you can see what they look like then you can try to start matching that. Many times people don't have those photos anymore. So then you look at shape of the face, the jawline, how wide the eyes are from the nose, the length of the nose, the shape of the nostrils, the set of the brow, eye color. Those are things that's a starting point. Depends on how big the role is as well. Very often when they do it's usually flashbacks. There's not a lot of dialogue. It's action usually. So you have a little more latitude with, you got to get the same height. That's really important. If there's a progression, if you see them at different ages, very often they'll do it in 3. They'll do under 10, 10 to 18, and then the adult actor.
That's what I was going to ask, is what are the sort of cutoffs, and how, say you're tasked with casting someone who's 15, kind of what is could you go to like 12, could you go up to sort of 18, and when you're casting younger versions, do you often try to go over 18 just because it's a lot difficult to work with minors and things like that?
It depends on budget. Yes, they would prefer over 18 because they get more hours in the day. 18, you don't need a guardian. But it's a 16, I think, that you can do without the guardian now. I think. It totally depends, because sometimes an 18-year-old can look 22, and sometimes an 18-year-old can look 14. And then there's Hollywood 18. There's many stories that they're 30 years old playing 18, and then you surround them with equivalent types. But normally you try to get the largest character first, and then worry about the duplicates later. Some films where it really is a split, half the film is young, half the film is old, then you're looking simultaneously. And
is that tough then? Because you're trying to, do you often have to sacrifice the best actors
sometimes
to get the best looks?
Sometimes sometimes you can dye hair color, so you don't really obsess about hair color. It used to be years ago when I started, the eyes had to be the right color. I've only recently in the last couple of years found out it's not a problem. They can digitally change them, which astounded me. I said, in every frame, it's easy, just globally change it, because so much is edited in the computer now. It's not like the old days where you had the editing machine. And I'm so old, I remember pre-video. I remember when producers and directors came to the auditions, and you had to remember what they did. I remember when video first came in, and some actors wouldn't go on tape.
Really?
Yeah, it was an insult to go on tape.
There you go.
Now actors are putting themselves on tape. So the industry has changed quite a bit. But ultimately, you still have to find a believable doppelganger.
I was going to ask then, what are the specific tricks? Like you mentioned, hair color can change, eye color can change. But is there anything like with makeup, any other examples of things that they can change to make it closer?
Well, certainly makeup is a huge plus. Because you can fix a nose, for example. A makeup artist can make a nose look identical. If one of your actors has got a very, very thin nose and the other one has a wider nose, then you're probably going to be building on the thinner nose, because you can't really makeup can contour a nose a bit, but you don't want it to look made up.
Yeah.
And you've got to have a hell of a good makeup artist who's going to do that every day and make it look identical.
It's budget, right, as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So you aim to get it naturally as close as you can. For example, we just did a series where there's several flashbacks, and the flashbacks is where the dialogue is. And then they go to current day, and the character's in his 70s. But in series 2, that 70-year-old may end up doing quite a lot of work. So we couldn't find an extra or a double, because if we go to another series and this character has to act, they have to be able to act with the proper accent.
There you go.
And they have to look resembling somewhat the guy who played him at 35.
Yeah.
Now you have a little more latitude, 35 to 70.
Yeah.
You can cheat it a bit more, but height still had to be the same. Shape of face had to be the same. Body type had to be the same. And thankfully we lucked out and found the perfect guy.
It seems that it would definitely be more difficult casting, between like adult to you know, sort of old age, rather than from being a child to being an adult.
Each are difficult.
Each have their own set of problems.
Yeah, because your older character may not live long enough to finish the film. They may get ill. We recently had a film with a lady who was 101 years old.
Wow.
She was magnificent. But they scheduled, she had 2 scenes. They did one on one day, one on another day, so not to tire her out. Very often you have to make concessions for the actors that you have. If you have, used to be you got twins. If you're doing under 5, you want to try to hire twins. There's not a lot of twins anymore that are in the industry. And normally what happens with twins is one is really good and one is really not. You know, and it's, you beg them not to write babies into things. And very often the baby is a doll. They'll get a quick insert shot of a real child. The rest of the time it's an inanimate object.
It's like the infamous Clint Eastwood American Sniper moment. Perfect baby.
It's easier, the younger they are, you get away with a bit more, because I don't know why, but it seems 5, 6, 7, 8 is easier. 10, 11, 12 is a bit harder. At that bridge, as they're going through puberty, you really want to try to make that 15-year-old play 12 as well. You do that through wardrobe and makeup. If you can get the 18 to play 14 too, even better. Sometimes what they'll do is get the adult actor to revoice. You know, you've got the person, and then the other actor will replace the dialogue, if possible. It happens more often with women than men. But you start with the photograph, and we would send the photograph to all the agents and say, who do you have that resembles this person? Okay. And that's the starting point.
Yeah, so I was going to ask then, you brought up, getting like an 18-year-old to play a 14-year-old. What's sort of the furthest you can stretch it in terms of, say you have an adult character, and you wanted to push them up to, from maybe like early 20s to 50, is that, like, how far difference is it till you recast?
You really couldn't get, if your lead is 20, they're not going to play 40.
Even with makeup and things like that, just wouldn't risk it? No, you could maybe age a 30-year-old up to 40 or 50, but not a 20-year-old. Okay. They have to have had some life, something to build upon. A 20-year-old, yes, it's been done. You need a hell of a good makeup artist. And that's a lot of time in the chair.
So that's a lot of time out of your shooting day. You're better off having a second cast member.
Okay.
You can age, a 40-year-old to 70. It's harder to youthen someone. They do that often. They do it with wigs, they do it with heavy makeup, but again, you probably, it's easier to find another actor.
Yeah, okay.
I think for a 20-year-old, they can, depending on who they are, they can go down as far as 15, 14 in a push, maybe. And you can push them maybe to 25, maybe 28.
Okay.
But that's about it, I think. But then again, there are 18-year-olds who look 25 already.
It's all circumstantial.
It depends on the artist. There are agents who say they're actually going to be 18 to 30.
That's what I was going to ask, is like you put out the call for a certain age, and then do the actors themselves, I guess, or their agents basically have to say, like, you could pull this off, or like, you look like you could be that. Like,
they say that.
Like, do you look at the age, or do you just look at how old?
If I'm in question, I'll look at what they say they are. The famous question is, how old are you? How old do you want me to be?
Yeah.
You never know whether they're telling the truth or not. You go with your gut. You could I believably buy them at 18. There was recently, I brought in an actor the other day who still looks quite young. They're over 30. And I was this character has to play 18 and 25.
Okay.
25 is not an issue at all. 18, it's just not working right. There's a local actress who for many years was playing 10 years younger than she was. She now doesn't do that anymore because she's lived.
Yeah.
And it's behind your eyes. It's not necessarily on your face, it's behind your eyes. As life deals you the knocks, your demeanor, your persona takes that on.
Yeah, even if the acting ability is not enough, you've got to have someone like to come from. Yeah.
And there's something when you're looking for that 18-year-old wide-eyed fresh thing, you really want to find someone that hasn't been damaged yet.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, I totally understand. So we've seen quite a big increase, I guess, in like sort of prequels, and I guess with sci-fi. You're talking about most of the time it's flashbacks, but have you seen a rise in instances of needing younger and older versions, or has it kind of always been the same?
It's always been the same, I think. Everything in this business is cyclical. Types of films that are made. For years there were no westerns, and then there were westerns. For years there were no war movies. Now there's war movies again. Family stories were out for a long time. They seem to be coming back in. I don't think it hasn't changed that much. They come in waves, and the moment one type of movie hits, then there's copycats of that same genre. There's a lot more flashbacks, I think, than there used to be years and years ago, which is a good and bad thing. Some feel that that's failing in screenplay if you have to do a flashback. But sometimes, particularly if you have some kind of a suspense story, it's really nice to not get it all told to you right away, that you're informed little by little by little, so you have to put the pieces together. And a flashback is very useful to do that.
You made an interesting point earlier about how you had to cast a good actor to play someone who's only showing up a couple of times in flashbacks and things. And so I think it would be interesting to look at films when you do notice, perhaps there's a likeness that doesn't quite match, and you think, why didn't they sort of pick someone that looked more like it? Then you've got to think, well, no, there's a plan further along, like maybe that was the best actor for that part in season 2. You just haven't seen the full plan yet. So that's something I haven't even
sometimes. Or sometimes it was the financier's cousin's next door neighbor's daughter, and they promised her a part. or it was the best available talent at the time. Other things, actors can be replaced. You know, very often it could have been the person cast got ill, couldn't do the job, got another job, and was released, and this was a last-minute replacement.
Okay.
I'd say very rarely would it be that there's a plan down the track.
Yeah.
Some directors don't care about matching faces, that it's not that important to them. Others are absolutely fastidious, and you know, I'll just say fastidious.
Yeah. You worked on Tidelands, and I noticed while watching that there was flashbacks back to a younger version.
Yes.
Of like Cal and I think, were there any other characters that were?
Well, there was Cal. There was Rosa, certainly, the mom.
Yeah.
The father is only flashback.
Yes.
There will probably be an Augie.
Yeah. Okay.
Flashback.
Cool.
But it was primarily Cal.
Yeah. And I just wanted to ask, like, what was sort of the process for that? Just sort of
we tested, because we didn't know who was going to play Cal.
Okay.
So we did a very large test of girls between 10 and 13. And then once they decided on who adult Cal was, they went back and looked at all the contenders and said, that one, we like her best. She resembles enough our lead. And I thought it worked pretty well. But she was picked for ability.
Yeah.
More so than look.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Because it was a very lots of emotional things going on in this flashback.
And very few, you know, she's a young girl. And some of the things she's having to be exposed to is difficult. Yeah. And the audition was only a very small scene. And they didn't get to read the whole script.
Wow.
Once we made an offer, at that point, the parents were permitted to read the whole script and make sure that it's...
And they have to sort of sign off, and you got to hope that they say yes. So then you hadn't found Cal yet, and then after they found Cal, you went back. How often do you get the chemistry tests, and do you often, is that a significant
That's in the
time
callbacks.
Okay.
And normally, and you don't, not every show has callbacks. Not every show does chemistry tests. In our case, we did chemistry tests for Tidelands. The Augies tested with Adrielle.
Okay.
And the Cals tested with Adrielle. And the Cals tested with Augie.
Yeah.
And with Dylan.
Okay.
So it was a very, very long day.
Yeah.
There were four of each, of Cal and Augie, and there were 4 Dylans, but some of the Dylans were also Augies.
Oh, wow.
So it was kind of, and everyone had to read with everyone.
Yeah.
And we filmed all of that. Okay. It was a very, very, very long day.
Yeah.
Many times I did a show at the original H2O. There were 3 girls for each of the mermaids, and each had to read with each to see how it all went together. Then you stand all 3 of them together, take the picture, you 3, and mix and match, and see who's the poster.
So many decisions have to go.
A show like H2O or Mako Mermaids, you did the acting, but then we had to throw them in the pool to see, could they swim? What do they look like underwater? Which you wouldn't normally think this, but people's appearance changes when wet.
Okay.
That someone who is absolutely beautiful dry can... Well, there was an actor who we were very interested in. She looked like Ariel. Literally, if Ariel became real, this girl looked like her. When she got wet, when that beautiful mane of red hair got wet and stuck to her face, she was very angular, very sharp featured, and looked significantly older than she was. Okay. And ultimately we couldn't cast her because it was not attractive, and that show takes place underwater at times. Yeah. They have to look stunningly beautiful underwater. And she came into the callbacks in first position and wound up not in the show.
It's going to be an interesting phone call.
It was hard. It's really hard. But, you know, there's nothing she could have done. And we brought her in for other things. And because the auditions, literally, there's a window at one of the pools in the middle of the coast. There's an underwater window. And we set up a camera, and they would have to swim to that window and come up. And sometimes you've got, depending on the show, you could have driving tests, you could have running tests, you could have swimming tests. Because horseback riding. If there's horseback riding, you bet your bottom dollar there's going to be a horseback test before they sign off.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that most people just say they can.
Well, they all say I can learn.
Yeah.
So what I do when I ask the question, I will zoom in very tight to just eyes.
Yeah.
And I have my answer before they say a word. Because you can literally see them go, if I say no, I won't get cast. Yeah, I can ride a horse. Which translates to I'm scared of them. Or I'll get a coach. Can you sing? Sure, I can sing. I mean, I did it as an actor. I was asked once, yeah, can you tap? Can you dance? Yeah, absolutely. I took a dance class once.
I was going to say phone call.
Yeah, well, I turned out I was in a ballet number and I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And it caused an issue. So I always tell actors never lie. If the answer is going to cost you the role, it wasn't meant to be your role.
Yeah.
Because what happens on shoot day when you can't perform, you either get fired or production stops. They have to get a double. You're not going to be thought of warmly. And I'm the one who's going to get in trouble because I should have known. So.
But then in terms of, do you ever get, the older version, younger version in the same room to sort of make sure they can sort of match mannerisms, or will you show the younger version footage of older versions? Like, is there any interaction, or is it purely based on how they are sort of naturally?
It's how they are naturally.
Okay.
I can't think of any time that we've ever had the younger and older in the same room. And it may even be done, I've seen them take photographs and put them next to each other.
Yeah.
I've seen them edit footage next to each other, but I've never seen them,
trying to mimic sort of animals or something.
Because very rarely is that going to be the physicality of it. There was one, I don't think we've ever, no.
Interesting. I'm kind of happy with that. I've gone through all my questions. Is there anything else you kind of thought of? Any other pieces of, advice for people attempting it?
Casting is a collaborative effort, and we make a contribution to the show. I get a script, I read it, it says Maureen, a 22-year-old redhead. Okay, well, I may read some blondes, I may read some 26-year-olds or some 19-year-olds. I have been known to, if it's John the lawyer and he's 40, I might bring in Joanne. If there's no reason that character has to be a particular sex, I'll bring in 9 Johns and 1 Joanne. Okay. I can't give him 9 Joannes, but I will, and I'll usually go within a 10-year age spread of the character, unless there's something in the plot. I encourage directors to be open-minded. Sometimes an actor can bring something. For example, The Family Law. The character one of the characters was described as a handsome 12-pack surfer with blonde hair and beautiful skin. And I went, oh, really? Again?
Yeah.
And there was an actor that I knew who does not have a 12-pack, who is not, sun-kissed, but is one of the funniest people I've ever seen. And brought him in. I knew he'd do a great test. He did a great test. The director said he's fantastic. They'll never go with him. And I started pitching, saying why they should. Because it was my contention that if the lead daughter fights her family for a piece of meat, it makes her shallow. If she fights her family for a schlub who's just a really nice guy, it makes her great. And the audience will root for her. And they're all like, oh, that's very sweet, but no, we want the piece of meat. Long story short, all the way up the food chain, we wound up with the schlub. And it made the show. It was one of the things that made the show. Because, and I was passionate about it. And I get really nuts about my casts. And I champion the actor, and I like going a little bit off, a little bit left of center. Not what you'd expect. And I love giving the newbie that shot. That's the joy of what we can contribute. And to aid the director and the producer. Because our job is not only to source the talent, it's to guard the budget. And to make sure that both things go together.
It's a lot of things happening at once. No, I really appreciate that. Because I guess you kind of look at it, it's like, all right, you get the description, you find people, and you come, but there's just so much more creativity and decision.
But it's also balancing availabilities. And whether sometimes the actor doesn't want to do that type of role again. I often go after the actor who's never gotten that type of role. So if they're always the bad guy, I'm going to go in with the hero part, or vice versa. Because I figure I can get that guy for less money by giving him the thing he never gets, because they want to show themselves at having range. It's thinking outside of the box. It's finding that singer who's never acted before, who's just perfect for that. For example, Sandra Bullock movie, the football movie. Her husband is a country music singer. A very famous country music singer, and that I think was one of his first acting gigs. But you'd never know watching that film that he wasn't an actor, because he was perfect for the part. And taking a risk, and it can be fun. But as I tell people, imagine a job where they hire you for your expertise and then they don't listen. But I think you find that in many parts of our industry. We all have our little corner of expertise, but it's a collaborative effort, and it's a family. I hope that helped.
Awesome, thanks so much.
Cool.
We could talk about that for ages. Like, man, you really opened my mind to.
Cool. Well, when you're casting your films.
No, it's been a process.
Sometimes it's not about how well they act. It's about how well they think. And you look them in the eye, and you talk to them, and do they have a sense of play? Because some people are great auditioners, and they're not very good on set. And more are terrible auditioners and magic on set. Because the audition is a foreign. You put them on a set, it's easy. You ask them to stand in front of a blue wall with nothing, with judgment sitting in front of them, and they really, really, really want it, it's fucked.
And nervous and stuff.
It's crazy because you've got to see through the nervousness and everything to see what it's like.
And they're trying to give a final performance, which will never happen. Because you don't have anything else there. And your reader is back here. So they're desperately trying to be perfect and feeling they're failing. And then you get a director who doesn't speak actor. Who goes, can you do it again? I don't know, better? Oh my God.
More intense.
Just, more angrier. Okay. Angrier, why? How? Or then you get the director who speaks actor, who can give you 3 adjectives and bingo, the light goes on. It's lovely. But they're few and far between. They should teach directors how to direct actors.
Just a random stuff, but do you think directors who've been actors is the way to go, or does that never really?
It depends.
Does it help the process?
It depends. It depends. Some are bitter actors. And you really don't want them. Some are fantastic. George Clooney as a director, give me him any day. He's got integrity, and it's not about him, it's about the craft. You know, do I want to be directed by Nicolas Cage? No. Just no.
Well, thanks for listening to the 16th episode of SLOP. We'll be back in 1 month for an interview with a Brisbane-based crew of podcasters and comedians, so make sure to check back in for that. And make sure to check the website and our Instagram and Facebook pages for all of the latest updates. And make sure to check out Movies Are the Future episode 4 when it launches next week. Thank you guys very much. Adieu.